Welcome back to the Tribal Lines podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Lupo, and today we're joined by an amazing co-host. We got Andrew Denson, aka Coach Drew. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm excited to shoot the shit about this season with other Survivor fans outside of my great co-host Jake, because I feel like this is the season that needs more of my interaction with it. I need to interact with people more about this season besides just my co-host Jake.
Yeah, definitely. This is an awesome season. I'm truly loving 47. Like every single episode has been either a blindside on the players, a blindside on the viewers, or um not a blindside, but just a well-crafted episode. So like every episode has been great. The players have been great. And this was another season that going into the season, I did not do much research, kind of just like based on vibes and just watching the edit, kind of seeing who I think might do well, and who I would like to root for. And usually when that happens, I'm not the biggest fan of the cast, but with this cast, I really love a lot of people, or there's certain people that I'm really excited to go home. So it's like it's been a great season for me to watch. And I'm happy to recap it with you.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same way. Like, I didn't do I literally just went right before the first episode. I looked at the cast. I'm like, I picked Rachel. I think probably because she was cute. So, I'm going to pick Rachel. And then as the season has progressed, like you said, I've started to pick up. So Rachel, Genevieve, Caroline, I feel like are the big front runners, but Andy, Gabe, and Rome were the three that I'm like, okay, I don't want them to win, but I am enjoying the content that they're giving to our televisions because they're so overly chaotic and they're such great characters, some more self-aware than others, that it's going to be so fun when they inevitably leave. And you brought up the fact that every episode, whether it's been Blindside or whatever, the Rome episode was very cut and dry. It's
Mhm.
going to be Rome. There's no way that it's not going to be Rome. And yet they turned that into such a compelling episode, even though us as the audience knows, yeah, it's probably going to be Rome. So if they can do that with an easy vote like that, I'm really excited to see how they continue to do that as the season progresses.
Yeah, definitely. And I just know some good episodes are coming up because so we'll talk about this in the podcast, but we got Rachel has an idol now. Sue has an idol. Gabe is a big personality and someone who is definitely going to be targeted soon. Sam is going to be someone who's going to be targeted. We have Kyle who's winning three individual immunities. Like we have a lot of people who one can be seen as threats and two have idols. So without these idols and these generally big threats necessarily being targeted, because at this point, like the merge is where you start targeting the true big threats, and prior to that, it's really about alliances and relationships and not letting it be you. Um, it's definitely gonna make for some really good episodes coming up, and we've already had so many great episodes, so I'm really excited for that.
Yeah,
And
it's
we didn't get a chance last week to recap episode 7. So this time around with you, Andrew, we're going to quickly recap episode 7 and then get into this past episode, which was episode 8. All right.
all right.
So let's dive right in. So prior to the immunity challenge in episode 7, not too much happened. The most noteworthy things were Saul apologizing to Andy for voting for him and tells him that Sam was the one who made Andy the backup plan. And when I saw him say that, and I thought back to what happened in the episode, I was like, no, I don't really think Sam was the one. I'm pretty sure it was like Sue saying, uh, are you guys okay with Andy? And then he was like, if it's Andy, it's Andy, because obviously he wasn't gonna push back so much. Because remember last time that the I think it was for 46, yeah, the Green Tribe pushed back and they ended up getting targeted as the first two people at the Mergatory. So it was smart for him not to push back, but after doing a rewatch, I realized that he told Soul like, hey, like I just want to make sure that we do have this backup plan because I would much rather see you stay in this game than Andy. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, it was Sam. Sam was definitely pushing for Andy to be the backup. And you can see from many confessionals that Sam and Sierra obviously see Andy as this just player that they're stringing along until they can't tolerate him anymore, and using him for a vote. And so I didn't think that it's the smartest thing going into the Mergatory for Andy to want to turn on Sam and Sierra, but now seeing how Sam and Sierra truly feel about Andy, and Andy being able to realize this very early on in the Mergatory, I think that is definitely huge for Andy's game. And I do think it's smart that he is wanting to turn on his original Gata, because he even says like he doesn't have a number one, Genevieve doesn't have a number one, so now they're trying to form an alliance and become number ones, which didn't really matter that much in this episode. So obviously I'm thinking when I watch this episode, this is probably just set up for what's to come in the future. And I do think, I don't know if it was necessarily the episode 8 that it really came to fruition, but like it kind of that started the whole go after Gata. And I think the whole Genevieve Andy thing is going to be maybe later down in the episodes. But yeah, what do you think about both Andy and Genevieve, and then the whole like Soul telling Andy about Sam being the one to make him the backup plan?
So at the beginning of the season, I mean, this was the news out of the first episode was, oh man, was Andy faking? Was he this? Was he that? I felt like it was a genuine moment that Andy had in that first episode, that he was able to turn into his storyline moving forward, because by the time we get to that next episode and he's like doing all these things that people can hype him up and they're all giving their confessionals like, we're just trying to keep Andy safe. I'm like, Andy's going to turn on these people at Merge. Andy's 100% going to turn on these people at Merge. Even if they end up voting one other person out before Merge, it's not going to be Andy, and Andy's going to flip. Now, what I didn't think was going to happen, I just thought, yeah, Andy flips. I didn't think that it would be sparked by somebody from his OG tribe basically throwing him under the bus. So, like you said, yeah, it was Sue that initially said something, but Sam, like, he went along with it. And so when you're hearing that and you're Andy, and you've already been looking for reasons to get rid of this dynamic duo, that's your tackling fuel, to quote the water boy. Like, that's all you need right there to be like, okay, let's deal with this now. And so starts the Andy revenge tour. It looks like the Andy revenge tour, jumping the gun a little bit, looks like the Andy revenge tour is going to get paused for the Sam revenge tour next week. But I think that it was great for Saul, because Saul's consistently just doing. He's being very subtle with a lot of things. It's very similar to how Genevieve and Caroline are playing, where it's very subtle about what's going on, and their names aren't being brought up as people that are like doing a lot of this. I think that that's great for Saul in this case, because he has this Andy thing. Also, Genevieve has shown in the past she's willing to come in and swoop in and take anyone under her wing. And we'll talk about that with the episode 8, or what I think is going to happen after episode 8. But she has shown to be the island of misfit toys, herself.
Yeah.
So she can start collecting all of her outcasts, and they don't target her and they don't see her as the threat, and they immediately start going at like this. So I think that was a great moment in the episode. I know it's the first 5 minutes, but I think that first 5 minutes definitely laid the groundwork for what's to happen, not only in this episode, not only episode 8, but I think long term.
Yeah, definitely. Um, all right, so now we go into the immunity challenge, and I was so certain prior to the episode that it was going to be a double because that's what they've done the last two seasons, and they were separated. So I'm thinking, okay, it's a double. Also, I'm I keep saying this every time we get around this time of the season on every season of Survivor whenever we're podcasting is that I think it's so stupid for the first vote to earn the merge, yet you're all voting together, and then right when the merge starts, you separate them.
Mhm.
Like if you're starting the merge, have them all vote together. It should have been like everyone just like at final 13, you've made the merge, but you still need two more votes to make jury. Like I understand that,
Yes.
but why be all cute with it and be like, "Oh, you got to earn your way to final 12 and then we'll split you up and it's not really the merge anymore." Like it I don't know. I think if they're gonna do that, then have the merge start at final 11.
Yeah, you might as well because right now, once again, jumping the gun a little bit, but like through episode 8, there have been zero merge votes where everyone has voted.
Yeah,
And that
wow.
is insane that we have not had a single everyone votes merge. And I think that that's going to continue next week because they love taking votes away from people now. And they love doing all these gimmicks. And thankfully, this season is overcoming the bad gimmicks that they keep throwing at the game. It's frustrating. And I thought it was going to be a double boot too. I thought it was like
Hmm.
it would have been the prime time because of what we've been trained to see since 41.
Yeah.
Um,
And speaking of which, when you're talking about the how maybe next episode there's not going to be everyone voting, I don't remember exactly what word for word what it was, but I saw the explanation like that they usually do, like the caption of the episode, like kind of like explaining without giving anything away what's going to happen. And it said something about like a pair of castaways goes on a journey where their game will really be at risk. Like if their game is really at risk, they're probably at risk of losing their vote and one of them is probably going to lose their vote. So it's just ridiculous. And then final nine is probably going to be three teams of three, and then one of them will whoever gets last place will probably have to possibly lose their vote. Like I don't know. It's
it's
silly.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Thank goodness the cast is amazing, like you said.
Yes, yes, exactly. They can make up for this. They can make up for all the lost votes. I do think if we're going to have so many people losing their votes, there should be a lot more people also getting advantages. Like if you're going to have, especially pre-merge journeys, if you're going to have like every single journey, someone loses their vote, like have one journey where there's a good chance somebody will just get an advantage and there is no losing a vote that episode. Like I think almost every episode this entire season somebody has lost their vote. It's so
But
it's wild.
it's so much a help. So I do think this season will end up being top 10, top 15. Who's to say?
It will be
Whatever.
one of the top seasons. Yeah, I think so too.
Pearl Islands has the Outcast twist, which I feel like people are pretty split on. But okay, so the Pearl Islands has the Outcast twist, and they have a quit. Cagayan has a quit, and what other thing happens? It's like, oh, that's a little. There's something else that happens to Cagayan, but all that to say is in these seasons that people put on pedestals, there are still moments that we can still look down upon and forgive because the the overarching thing is still great. And I think that with this season, we get a case of that where, hey, we are still doing this whole you still lose the vote and all that, but it doesn't matter because the episodes are great, the cast is great, and they have tweaked as we're ready to talk about in the how they split it up. They've tweaked certain twists they've introduced in the new era to make it more compelling, appealing, whatever word you want to throw in there. So they're trying to learn. They're trying to
Yeah,
right the
it's
ship.
still not there yet, but they're getting there. They're starting to get
Yes.
there. So we have the two groups of six. The last person left standing will win immunity for their whole group, and the last one left standing of the losing tribe will win individual immunity, and they will go to tribal council. Only that group will vote. The other group will get a reward and get to watch the tribal council. When they split the groups up, how crazy we have one with three Lavo and three Gata, which would have been an amazing tribal to see. But the other group has all five Tuku members and Rachel. Going into this episode, I thought my prediction for both groups, and I want to hear also what you were thinking for what would have happened with the Lavo Gata group. Um, I think that going into this episode, my predictions were that Tiana was gonna go home, but it was not gonna be Rachel. Everyone was on Rachel, and then somehow Rachel pulls it off, and it's all Tuku voting with each other. I thought legitimately Tuku was going to use Rachel and flip. I thought Gabe was going to use Rachel as his like third like girl that he plans to bring to the end type like, oh, let me pull you into my alliance, and they would have gotten out Tiana. It didn't work out that way, but Tiana still ended up being the boot, so at least I predicted that right. With the three Lavo, three Gata, my prediction was even though she was my winner pick all season long, my prediction was if they did go to tribal, that Sierra would have been voted out and Sierra would have been the first member of the jury. Um, I did guess Sierra being the first member of the jury correctly, but
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be from this double elimination, and it wasn't. So I do think that if they did go to tribal, Sierra probably would have been the boot because I think Andy would have flipped. And if and I think that Genevieve would have tried to pull Andy in to target the other two rather than having Lavo pull in Sam and Sierra to target Andy. Um and knowing how the immunity challenge went with Genevieve and Teeny being the last two from that group. Whoever of them would have won immunity would have automatically given them the edge because if they went a 3-3 tie, there's a higher probability now that if you go to rocks that somebody from Gata will be going home, not a Lavo member. So automatically from one of them winning immunity, it was already favoring Andy flipping because he would not have wanted to go to rocks for Sam and Sierra. So
absolutely not.
yeah. So at that point, it seemed like Sam or Sierra were going to be dead in the water if they did go to tribal. But I want to hear what your thoughts were on this split and what would have happened in that Lavo Gata group.
So I mean, I didn't. Once they split up, and once we learned that only one tribe went, I didn't really put thought into what would happen with either one. I was more worried about Rachel just in general as my winner pick. But I also sat there and said, okay, well, if these tribes do go together, then I think that it's more likely that either one Andy flips or two they go to rocks. But I don't. There was really no other like who do I think is going to go in that situation with the Rachel one. And I mentioned this on my show was I watched that episode 3 days after it aired, and I had accidentally seen a spoiler or what I thought was going to be a spoiler, where it basically said Rachel Rachel got screwed. And so the entire episode, I have this dread over me of like, well, Rachel's going home. Rachel's going home. Oh, well, she
Oh,
ended up in a 5-on-1. Of course she's going home. They're all the strategizing. It's like, it's all bullshit because she's going to go home. And we'll get to, what ultimately happens. But at that point, that was the only time that I was frustrated is because, man, these people just leave it alone for just, I shouldn't have gone on social media, but um, yeah, I mean, my thoughts were I can't believe I'm losing my winner pick right before the jury starts. But as we will see a little later, things aren't always what they seem.
that's right. That's right. So we get uh Kyle winning individual immunity for the second time. And I was also very surprised that Genevieve and Teeny won for their group. Genevieve I expected. I kind of predicted that Genevieve would be one of the more likely winners of this challenge for that group. And I predicted Kyle would be the most likely winner from the other group. So I understand those two, but Teeny, who is terrible at these challenges this season, is is one of the last two standing for their group. I'm very proud of her. I mean, that's awesome. Good for her that she was able to hold it on for that long in
Yeah,
this challenge.
yeah. I Teeny. Oh, I don't want to go too far, but uh, Teeny has been very enjoyable this season. I feel like right now it seems like Teeny's not getting a lot of like every all the screen time that Teeny does get. Teeny's involved with all of the conversation, so not being shown as a non-factor. Thank goodness. But it's also being well. She's also being kind of just shown as we don't get her thoughts on everything. We get Caroline's thoughts on everything. We get Genevieve's thoughts on everything. We get Rachel's thoughts on everything. With Teeny, all we know for a fact is she wants a non-male alliance. She wants a non-male alliance, and I feel like that storyline is going to continue in episode 9 because the first 3 of the merge, it's been, hey, let's do this, and it hasn't come to fruition yet. And at this point, it needs to happen this upcoming episode if it's going to happen at all.
Yeah, I think they are showing those people you were mentioning a lot more, like Genevieve and mentioning Caroline and stuff like that. And that also makes me think a little bit about Sue because Sue and Caroline are this tight duo, but they're starting to show Caroline's strategy more than Sue's. Um, Now, is this just because Caroline is going to easily make it extremely far in this game, or is it because they're setting up for it to be more obvious that Sue is going to be targeted before Caroline? Maybe she doesn't go home because she has an idol, but maybe they're like, oh wow, like Caroline is like doing so well in this game and is getting such a great edit, and now she's gonna get targeted and go home. So like that could be why. But no, I think Caroline is just playing a great game, and I think Caroline's gonna go very far. Um, but that's an interesting thing for Teeny as well. The thing why I'm not too worried about Teeny and actually think it's actually benefiting her that she's not getting too much of these confessionals is because Lavo right now is in this swing position, it seems like, at least at least at this point in the game. And uh what Genevieve seems to want is happening a little bit more than maybe what Teeny wants. Teeny's trying to stay under the radar. Teeny wants certain things to happen, also known as getting these men out. But these men are not getting voted out, and she is just having to kind of stay under the radar and not make a big deal about it because she doesn't want to be seen as someone who like wants to push back because when somebody pushed back on Teeny, Teeny voted her out, aka Asia.
Hey.
So I understand where Teeny's coming from, and so I do think good things are ahead for Teeny, but it's definitely maybe hurting her winner's edit, but I do think Teeny's going to go very far, and I think that with this cast, so many people are getting winners edits, so I have no idea who can win. So I really do think it's everyone's game, and I think they're just doing a great job editing the season where like Teeny definitely is a winner contender, along with many other people in this cast.
Yeah, well, I'll talk more about it in episode 8, so I'll leave that part alone. We can move on.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So uh Tiana, after we realize that, Tuku and Rachel are going to tribal, now they have to go strategize, and Tiana wants Gabe out, and she already has Kyle, so she now needs to, and she probably would have Rachel because Rachel wants to save herself, so they need a fourth. They need Caroline because they don't want to go to Rocks. They try to convince Caroline, but Caroline is saying that it's better to stay Tuku strong, primarily for Tiana and Caroline, because yes, they probably will go after Tuku, but they won't be going after Caroline and Tiana. They'll be going after people like Kyle and Gabe. Um, I think that what Tiana was saying about how they should not get Rachel out because then if they do, then they're obviously going to get targeted. 100%. If that happened, Tuku member was going to be the next one voted out no matter what. But Caroline makes a great point that she would not be the target, neither would Tiana. If they had to get targeted, it would have been one of the guys on the tribe. Um, so I could see it both ways. What I am kind of confused about is why Gabe didn't actually try to get Rachel, Caroline, and Sue to vote with him and try to get out Tiana point blank because that would show that they're not all united, that there are cracks, possibly pull in Rachel as now an ally to try to get maybe Gata to be on their side or get Rachel, but then also try to get the Lavo members. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting that Gabe was not going after Tiana and was automatically wanted Rachel out, but also um when giving a fake plan tried to get Caroline out. I was like, I know it's a fake plan, but like that's a risky fake plan because if that gets back to Caroline, Caroline is now, oh shoot, but why is he throwing my name out specifically? Like I know we want to vote out Rachel, but why am I the decoy vote? Um, so that could have been really bad for Gabe. Like Rachel didn't end up saying anything, obviously, because or else Caroline would have definitely said something, and definitely would be okay with getting Gabe out. But then we know exactly what happened. Caroline, being the swing vote, ended up voting to stay loyal to Gabe and voting out Tiana. Um, but yeah, what do you think about this whole Gabe wanting to just target Rachel and throwing out Caroline's name?
So with that, like, I mean, I think that Gabe, at the end of the day, Gabe's looking out for, oh, besides himself, Gabe's looking out for Sue because Gabe is convinced that Sue is his meal ticket to the end of the game because I'm going to beat Sue because, she's listening to me, this, that, and the other.
Hmm.
And whether that's true or not, we will see. So him throwing Carolina the bus right there, it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. What more stuck out to me, and I'm so glad, like, it's not really even shown if Rachel like really buys it or not. But Gabe's just like, yeah, I would go to Rocks. I would go to
Yeah,
Rocks.
yeah,
Like, would you? Because I don't even think she believes that. I know you don't believe that. But the way it's being portrayed and the way that Rachel is shown to react to it, it's like, oh man, like, is she buying this? But clearly not, because of what happens later. I was like, well, why? I understand that you have to make people feel comfortable. I almost feel like if someone were to say that to me and I just met them yesterday, I'd be more willing to believe that they are lying about it because why would you go to Rocks for me? You don't even know me. You could be my target right now. I could be telling everybody else, hey, you guys should flip and get Gabe out. So Gabe saying that was confusing, but it is very on brand for his character in the
yeah.
season because, like I said, him, Rome, and Andy are these masters of chaos, masters of TV villainy. And so I got it. I got it.
Yeah, yeah, like exactly. Rome's like a chaotic villain, and like Gabe's like a villain. He's like a gameplay villain. Like
Yeah.
he's doing but like a lot of times gameplay villains are like they'll do whatever it takes to win,
Yeah.
and those are the gameplay villains you want to root for. I just think the way he's being portrayed more so as the villain of the season rather than the I'm such an amazing game player of the season because also like constantly saying like, oh, like Caroline and Sue are my goats. If I take them to the end, I'm guaranteed to win. I'm gonna be on the Mount Rushmore of Survivor. Everything is
Let's have
going
that
my way.
confidence.
You never
Well,
know.
we'll see. But I want to ask you this then. I know we're straying a little bit, but do you feel like certain people are on this season are playing for 50?
Hmm. Um,
Sorry
honestly,
for putting you on the spot there.
honestly, no.
No? Okay.
I think that whoever is gonna get invited from this season will 1,000,000% say yes. but I don't think they're playing to be on season 50. I think they're playing to win, and I think they are just I think Survivor just casted some great people who give great confessionals and can be edited in ways that strike audience members certain ways and like allow for good storylines. And so,
Okay.
yeah, I don't think anyone's trying to specifically play for season 50. I think they're just a lot of great people on this season.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you think?
Yes, I think 100%. Like it would be hard not like you still play to win. You always play to win. But you also understand because these people would know, hey, 50, they're doing, returnee season. Let's give let's be more outlandish now. And if I win turning my myself up to 11, then I can go play at 50 with house money because I've already won with an extreme level. Meanwhile, if you turn yourself up to 11 and lose, but still get casted, you can turn yourself down to like 9 and no one's going to. It's very similar to Tony and Game Changers, Tony and Winners at War. Tony and Game Changers is Tony on steroids. And yeah, so by the time he gets to Winners at War, people aren't looking at him because he's now all of a sudden gone down. And the reason I bring this up is because all of Gabe's confessionals, I feel like Andy and Rome, I know I keep going back to the three of them, but like I feel like the three of them were trying to portray themselves and are these larger than life personalities. And they want more of their personality to show now and play the game so that when casting comes calling, they can go play 50 and not have to worry about being Andy or Gabe. They can worry about just winning the game because you've already made it. You've already got to
Mhm.
play twice.
Who do you think is the one person from Survivor 47 on 50? Because Probst said on his podcast that one person from this season is definitely on season 50.
Man, that's
And
I
he said that he's trying to make the season very joyous season.
oh I think
So Rome is not on
well
it.
no I have my own thoughts on what he actually meant by that. But if I had to guess, probably Gabe. But anyone, there's almost nobody on this cast that I'd just be like, I mean, placement wise, yeah, you could say, but like just personality wise, going all the way back to John, we could say, oh yeah, John was fun. Okay, we can.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
he loves Love It. I think Love It is definitely going to come back on a future season.
yeah.
Maybe not
So if I
50,
had to
but
guess, I'd say Gabe. Gabe.
okay. I when it first came out, my guess was Gabe. Um, but now reading a little bit too far into the joyous season of it all, I'm leaning more, and the fact that Probe said like seeing a certain person, like the way they acted, their confessionals and whatnot, and like they were like, like this could be an interesting addition to season 50. I think they're probably talking about Andy, which would be pretty cool if
Which
Andy
would
was
be
on season 50. Because I just his redemption story, the way he acts in his confessionals, he's always very like happy, and he's not like too diabolical in a sense.
no.
His voting confessionals are hilarious. So I feel like Gabe, maybe if you're trying to put on a really good player, I think Gabe could be the one. But if you're thinking like a joyous addition to the season to represent like Survivor, I think Andy could be an interesting play, especially if he doesn't win. Um,
Yeah, I think that when his revenge tour inevitably ends, he might even get the fallen angel music that they save for like special moments. And I'd be all right with it. Like, yeah, I've never been a big Andy person. I was very much a supporter of his mental health after the first episode. Not a big Andy person, but I've enjoyed, especially when we get to episode 8, and Sierra and Sam talking about how he's, basically in their back pockets, like just talking and how they I think Sam said he forgets that Andy is there sometime. I'm like, yeah, of course I want Andy to get rid of these two. Like, why wouldn't?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Also, I'm curious, could we just be completely overlooking the amazing women on this cast? Because
Yes, yes.
the new era, like thinking back to all the past seasons, there are not a ton of really standout women who were thinking, oh, they are definitely going to be on season 50. But there are a lot of standout men that were like, oh, they're probably definitely going to be on season 50, and not all of them can be. So, is there a guy on this season that's so outright like we need him on season 50, or could it be a woman from the season?
If we were to pick a woman from the season, I'd probably say Genevieve,
Genevieve is what I'm thinking
especially if
too.
she somehow doesn't win, because I think that her trajectory right now is win. If she somehow ends up being Sareed or something, I'd say very top of the list, Genevieve for 50, because she gives great confessionals. She's involved in everything. And I mean, she's really good at swooping in and getting these folks. And I think that if they continue to let this happen and they continue to not say her name, we could be ended up in a situation where we get to like final five, final four, and she loses. I think that Rachel's going to be one that loses the fire making because
Rachel's making it to fire making.
I when we get to episode 8, we'll talk. I'll talk about when we get to
Okay,
episode 8. I'm convinced that Rachel's Leah fire making based
that's
off of stuff that I
crazy.
saw in episode 8.
Okay. All right, interesting.
Saul finding the thing. Let's Saul finding the thing.
Yeah, all right. So Saul finds an advantage, and this advantage is to give one of the players that are going to tribal council the choice of a block a vote or a safety without power. He was deciding, do I give it to a Tuku member to gain favor with the Tuku members, um, and allow them to block Rachel's vote and therefore make it very easy for Rachel to go home, or send it to Rachel, who would probably end up choosing a safety without power to end up saving herself. I think he made the right move. I think that having, even if you're not necessarily working with Gata, having someone on Gata who will prevent your name from being the name thrown out if a Lavo member is being thrown out is huge. And I also think it is definitely, as we can see in this next episode, um, we can see that it's definitely huge for Rachel because when they were deciding Rachel, Sierra, or Sam, he was pushing heavily for it not to be Rachel.
Yes.
So that definitely helped in that sense as well. So I think that as of right now, it's looking really good that Saul did that and is definitely seems to be benefiting his game. But knowing Rachel and the type of player she is, I think that she's extremely appreciative short term. But if it benefits her game to lose Saul in the next couple of votes, she will. She will not be like, oh my God, he saved my life. I will never vote him out. If it's the right move for her, she will vote him out. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's necessarily the case for Saul. I think Saul is trying to milk this Rachel Bond as far into this game as possible. And if he has anything to do with it, I think maybe Rachel could be the one going out in fire. But I don't think that's
Yeah. Well, and also the fact that Andy gets caught looking for stuff during the reward is
uh-huh.
just so it's so
So
textbook
Andy.
Andy. And it's Genevieve does her cold confessional where she's like, "Yeah, I'm really trying to do this whole Andy thing, but he's gotta chill out a little bit." It's like, yes, because you're probably going to win, Genevieve. Yeah, I and we can talk about this more with 8, but in this moment I was happy that Saul, because of how I watched the episode, I was like, oh, okay, so
Right.
Saul's is going to give her like a block of vote then, and the block vote's not going to matter because Rachel's going to go home. um so I think that Saul being the person was probably the best person. because he is someone looking for allies. I think other people would have had other ulterior motives, and his ulterior motive just happened to match up with Rachel not going home. Um, and this is an episode 8 thing. I'm not convinced that Rachel will flip on Saul anytime soon because I don't feel like Rachel. I don't feel like Rachel.
Rachel doesn't have many allies right now. Yeah,
Yes, she
she
needs
needs Saul.
Saul. She can. When we get to 8, she already had, you know, revenge on her mind. Probably later against Sam and Sierra for what happens here. Oh no, not what happens here, but what happens a few weeks ago. So I don't think that she was like, I don't think her eggs were really in the Sierra Sam basket anyway. So you go with Saul. Yep, Genevieve probably comes to her next week and says, "Hey, I see you don't have anybody. Come with me." There's many different roads that Rachel can go where she doesn't need to rat out Saul as the person that gave her the advantage.
Yeah, I do definitely think Genevieve is that kind of person who would do that. The problem is Genevieve wants Rachel out more than anything in the world.
Yes, it
Um,
does.
Same with Caroline, which is why that I think is an extremely powerful duo to watch out for that it is not being talked about as much, other than the fact that they both want to go after the same person. I think Caroline and Genevieve are going to be such a lethal duo, and Andy. I think a little Andy, Caroline, Genevieve can go really far in this game, those three.
Oh yeah.
Because one, they're not looked at, I don't think they're going to be looked at as threats anytime soon. And I do think that they can generally be on the same page with a lot of things. Now, the only person I worry about is Caroline because if they go after a Tuku member, will Caroline flip? Um, I don't think she's necessarily gonna flip, but I think she's going to weigh her options a lot more than obviously Andy would because Andy was already prepared to flip and did flip. Um, so uh then we end up seeing that Gabe tells Sue and Caroline after the safety without power is used, uh, that we cannot break up no matter what. And I do think that Gabe saying this definitely helped Caroline come to her decision ultimately. And I think that Caroline being the swing vote at this tribal council ended up, you know, voting out Tiana. And Tiana was saying how much it means to her to be make the jury and to fall so short because of this twist is unfortunate, but I'm definitely happy. I mean, I a lot of people like Tiana, and are rooting for Tiana. I am a huge Gabe stan right now, and for Tiana to go after Gabe like that, I didn't like it. I didn't like it one bit. I didn't
I
like it
took
one
it
bit.
personally.
I took it very personally. I'm glad
No,
Tiana's gone. I
I
also figured like Tiana wasn't getting the best edit. Um, Nothing really strategically, Tiana. Any confessionals from her? It was really until this episode where she got voted out. It was mainly just her not trusting Gabe or her being the main swing vote in the first vote against TK. Other than that, we didn't really know where she stood with anyone other than the fact that she seemed close with Kyle. So it seemed inevitable that she was going to be out soon. Um, I just didn't know if it was going to be early merge or not, but yeah, she or I'm early jury, but she ended up going out
yeah, it was
pre-jury.
very sad hearing her tears on the way out, but
Yeah, a lot of tears from people on the way out this season. Damn, like people are
yeah,
getting really into it, and I'm loving it. I'm loving the tears. I really do. I enjoy the occasional like, oh, you guys got me, great gameplay. But like I also do like when a blindside is not just okay, you guys got me, but it's just devastation.
yeah,
Um
because
it
it
makes
shows
it
how
makes for
much
great
it
TV
meant.
and yeah, exactly. It shows that, people it means a lot to people.
what did you think about Saul's acting? What does that do?
It's
Oh,
like
it's safety out there. What does that do? It's like
the
good
what?
for you. Yeah, yeah. It's like
I thought it was hilarious. I think for somebody staring at Saul, he was amazing. He was dead center on the bottom
yeah,
row. Nobody was looking at his acting.
yeah. Yes, that's
Um,
exactly what my yeah. No one, because I'm assuming that everyone was probably acting the same, so Saul didn't stick out because of that.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Before we, so that's pretty much wraps up episode 7, but before we get on to episode 8, um, what was your view on this twist where someone from the winning tribe got to send an advantage to someone on the losing tribe? I know it made for great TV and you wanted Rachel to stay, but just Survivor wise, do you think this is a good twist, or did you not really like that they added this?
Well, and this is I alluded to this earlier. There have been times that they've split the tribes up where someone has inevitably ended up rowing down Schitt's Creek without a paddle. Matthew was it 44?
Matt
Or
44, yeah. And
yeah.
then
Um,
who was it recently?
uh,
Oh, it was Charlie and Maria, but they got out of it.
yes. And
Yeah.
so well, my thing has always been okay. Well, if there's going to be another, if there's going to be this other group, if they can help out any type of way possible, that'd be great. Especially if you end up in a situation where you just get swapped 4-on-1 right after you merge. If this had happened at Final Eight, then I feel like yeah, you don't want to add too much into it because they just got together. These people don't know Rachel. Rachel doesn't have the best relationships with these people because only what one to two of them did she actually go on the Survivor whatever a few episodes before that. So these people don't know her, so it would be easy enough to vote her out. And you want to make sure that there is added element to the game to make sure that I don't believe in swap screwed. I do believe being screwed in a situation where it was random chance and you and you didn't you don't have every what's the word
Like,
opportunity to work your way out of it. So I am glad that they added this element to this the split that happens here, and we'll talk about this with Aid. There's something they add to the auction that I feel like fixes a little bit how they have the auction now. So all that to say, I like it. Even if it wasn't Rachel, I'd still like it.
okay, okay. Yeah, I think that it's definitely like I guess a love hate for me because I think I love it because it allows somebody from the winning tribe to now make a good relationship with someone on the losing tribe, and now that's another storyline to follow throughout the season. So I like that aspect of it. um I don't love that it's an advantage that is required to be played at a certain tribal. Those are the advantages I don't like. If you give someone an advantage, give them the opportunity to, like, now you're gifting Rachel this safety without power, but she doesn't have to use it this tribal. If she thinks she's safe, she now has this safety without power for the rest of the game. Um, that was the part of this twist that I didn't like, that it was forcing someone to use the advantage. Um, and also safety without power is a huge advantage, but is perfect for something like this where if you are like swap screwed in a sense, like right before jury, like this is a great way to get out of it. So
Yeah.
in that sense, I understand safety without powers not the worst choice for an advantage at this point in the game in this scenario, because also if you do think you're in the numbers, you don't want to use the safety without power and you'd rather use the block of vote because you need your vote. And now it's almost like you're getting two votes because you're preventing someone else from voting and now you're not leaving and losing out on your vote. Um so it's all about balancing, do I want to be safe or do I want the vote to go my way? And that's kind of, do you want to use the block a vote or the safety without power? So yeah, I like it in terms of you're now adding another relationship layer going into the next vote, and going into the merge, but I don't like it in terms of making them use it that tribal council.
Okay, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, uh, all of that is to say, when Rachel used the safety without power, I was glad because now I don't know what's going to happen in the episode. I spent all episode thinking I knew exactly what
Right,
was going to happen.
right. That
So
episode must have been like, oh, okay, they're
yeah,
setting up
wow. Okay,
Rachel,
I have no
Rachel,
idea what's going to
Rachel.
happen now. And yeah, uh, we lose Tiana, and that takes us into another great episode.
It,
Um,
it does, it does. And we were already talking about this whole Rachel and Saul relationship with the whole idea of this advantage. I didn't know for sure if Saul was going to tell Rachel about this or just use it when the time is right. Um, but he did. He did end up telling Rachel, letting her know that it was him who ended up giving this advantage to her and saving her life in this game. And I love how right before telling her this, further further like made it so certain in her mind that she was going home. Like, damn, like you were really going home there. Like it was so obvious they were going to vote you out. Like, thank God you got that advantage. And then she was like, yeah, like I'm so happy whoever gave that to me. I was like, it was me. It was like, so just like further showing like, yeah, like I was the reason you stayed without actually saying I'm the reason you
mhm.
stayed. Um, which I think was very smart wordplay by Saul, and and also him saying like it'll put a huge target on my back if this gets out, so like please like keep the secret. I do think Rachel will keep it secret until it seems like it's Rachel or Saul going home, and maybe
Yeah,
she'll like say something, but um I do think that Rachel's going to keep the secret probably until she makes it onto the jury, and then let's say Saul's at the end, be like, guys, like he was the one who gave me the advantage, and then bang, that's another move on his resume that people already know about going into final tribal. So that could be an interesting thing to think about. But I think it was a great move for him to tell Rachel
yeah. We
what
built
he
those
felt.
bonds. Saul hasn't been someone that has been shown to have like a close person for a very long time. So helping the situation, the conversations that he had not only with her but with Kyle later, not even later on. I think it's the very next scene. Um, it shows that Saul is, he's getting back to a point where he has people that he can actually trust, and I think that the game is going to become a lot more fluid next episode based off of what we see by the time this episode ends. And
Hmm.
I think that Saul's a very big driving factor with that, with who he is aligning himself with. And obviously, on the other end of that, Rachel, you know, aligning herself with Saul, and at the end of the episode, losing someone that she's good with, but not tight with, leaves the door open for all of these people to have all types of fun alliances. And I'm really excited to see what happens with that.
Yeah. And yeah, that's something interesting, the whole Saul and Kyle relationship. It was kind of like the Genevieve Andy one. It had no impact on the episode, but it was shown in the episode. So it's kind of probably gonna lead into maybe this upcoming episode, the whole like idea that Saul and Kyle are tight, could maybe affect the vote, or it could result in Saul being like, "Oh, like people want to target Kyle. I really don't want Kyle out. Like, let me try to get the vote onto someone else." And then maybe he ends up being Gabe going home or something. Um, or maybe ends up being Sue because I know both of those names were being thrown out in scenes from the next episode, which we'll talk about. Um, so I could see that. I could see that maybe being the reason why that was thrown in there, but it was definitely a weird thing to just randomly throw into this episode because it had
This
nothing to
season
do with
is
it.
Survivor Chekhov's gun, where they just continue to just show us things that in the moment are like a fun little scene, but ultimately are going to have some, because they're making it so obvious that this matters. Sue with the idol and how she looked for it and how she searched for it, and how the way the scene was shot, it looked like she had cleaned up everything. She thought she had gotten away with it. They come around, Sue with all this red stuff, and then we never hear about that again until 2 episodes later when they merge and get back to the camp. And not only were us as an audience tricked into think she actually cleaned up, but it's very poor. Uh, it's very vividly shown that it basically just looks the exact same way it was when she initially found the idol. And so now everyone knows that something happened. But then again, we have not heard about that again, which means that, eventually that's going to pay off down the line. The next week's episode could be all about how everyone thinks that Sue has the idol. Having said that, Kyle and Saul, we might not see anything about Kyle and Saul for an episode or two, but we know that something is coming because, like you said, they're not going to just show us that if it doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that doesn't know what Chekhov's gun is, go look it up. It's going to pay off in some type of satisfying way, depending on who you're rooting for.
Yeah, and I truly do think it is going to be next episode. Just the fact that Kyle and Saul's name are two of the four names in the scenes from the next episode who were thrown out as possible people to vote out. So I do think it'll somewhat come into play. Also, it's definitely going to come into play if Kyle doesn't win four challenges in a row. Because I mean, at that point, Kyle has to be a discussion point as a possible vote out if he loses this next challenge, which I assume he will. Um, but we'll see. Um, so and then obviously Sam is thinking like, oh, we made a great bond with Lavo. It's gonna be Lavo and Gata till the end. We're getting out all these Tukus, setting up for just demolition of the Tuku tribe. And we obviously find out that that is not the case, and that does not
It's
happen
never
this
the case.
episode.
It's
Um,
never the case.
it's never
It's
the case.
it's always so that frustrating. But when you see moments like this, it merges, especially merges with three tribes, where it's like, oh yeah, let's get these two tribes together and pick. I'm like, yeah, it'll work for an episode.
Exactly. Like I think he's thinking that way um in the moment, like, oh, like we have such a great relationship, we can probably for a few votes like get him out. But I think he knows deep down it's not going to last, but he does think that at least for the first vote, maybe the first two votes, they will definitely stick together. And unfortunately he's blindsided by this.
Yeah,
um
so much for that, Sam.
yeah. So the Survivor auction is back. I love the Survivor auction. I'm so glad they brought it back in 45. They have now brought it back in 47. And I gotta admit, the auction items this season compared to 45 made it so much more enjoyable to watch because 45's auction items were awful. They were all sweets or snacks or very mediocre meals. Like they were nothing, none of the really like exciting meals that they had in 47, like the burrito, like the hamburger. Um, they had like whole breakfast. What were some other like big ones?
I know the fish eyes also show up in there,
Fish
and
eyes show up again. Yeah.
I remember that one vividly. The fish eyes show up in 45. So
Uh-huh.
outside
Uh-huh.
of that, and
Yeah.
I just rewatched that episode in July, or that season in July. But yeah,
Oh, the chicken wings. Oh my God. If I got the chicken wings, I would have been so happy. I probably would have passed out. I would have been so happy. Like, oh my God, I love buffalo wings. And if I was out there getting chicken as some protein, getting to dip my wings in blue cheese, get some nice vegetables with carrots and celery, like that would have been perfect. Definitely tough for Kyle getting it
let's say yeah.
because he is a vegetarian, a vegan, then a vegetarian, and now he's eating meat to survive.
I did think it
Um,
was cool that he said he changed his diet just in the event he ended up on Survivor. That
Uh-huh.
is betting on yourself.
That is betting on yourself, but that's also meaning like you're not really caring that much about the um animals. You're just doing it for your own health at that point. Like if just for the chance you'll be on Survivor, you're now okay with eating fish, like come on.
um, how do you like the way they've changed the auction in 45 and 47?
I absolutely hate it. I'm so happy that auction is back, but it is, in my opinion, one of the worst twists they could have added to the
Okay.
auction. I think the only thing they needed to change about the auction was exactly what happened with Rachel, and that's hiding something in a covered food item, not making it just, all right, time to bid on an advantage. Um, I think have that was an amazing twist that they added into 47. Um, but and I do think it's kind of fun to have them run around and try to find these bamboo sticks to get different amounts of money. I'm okay with that also. Um, what I'm not okay with is
Oh,
the whole
okay. So we both hate the same aspect. Then I was like, oh, you hate all. We hate the
yeah,
same aspect.
the
Okay.
main thing that I hate, which comes hand in hand with the fact that they have varying amounts of money, is that the once five auction items are gone, whoever has the highest amount of money will get that item, and it's no longer a fun bidding war, which is what I enjoy equally as much in the auction as seeing what food items they get and how happy they get for because they're starting. Um, but
Yeah.
it's
Just
just after the first five items, the Survivor auction's over in my eyes.
it's basically game over for the person that has just enough money, but not like just enough money to have said you won money, but not enough for you to, be zero. Which is why when Andy, so when I was first watching it, I thought that Andy was five D chessing this whole thing and like purposely throwing it so he could end up with zero because that seems like the type of thing that Andy
Right?
would
That's what I was
do.
thinking too. I didn't think he was actually doing that, but I thought, oh wow, this is an interesting strategy.
And then you get a confession where it's like he's actually sad that he's not getting it. It's like, oh, never mind. But yeah, I like them looking around. And of course, you have the Genevieve scene where she picks one right behind Andy, and it's great television. The scramble, it's great television. The first 5 rounds, like you said, but if you don't do anything that first 5 rounds and you don't have zero, you better hope that you are number one because oh, not even number one. You better hope there's at least one more, like there's a six or wherever the cutoff is,
Hmm.
because you are ultimately just kind of waiting for your downfall because no one in their right mind is going to let me who has 300, you have 400, me say, oh yeah, I'm going to bet 300 for this thing, not knowing that we're going to have another round. Even if you don't know what it is, even if it's something that you hate, you're betting $400 because you don't want to lose your vote, which is the worst part of this twist. I agree. I love the new auction. I hate this twist, and I love the twist they introduced to Rachel. We are on the same page. We're on
Okay,
the same.
awesome. Perfect, perfect. Love it. Um, yeah, they if they need to have the auction again and they need to get rid of this twist, it pisses me off. And but the thing is, Jeff Probst doesn't like to listen to his fans. He does it his own way, and if there's a chance that he's kind of on the same wavelength of his fans, then he'll change it. But he's loving these constantly losing your votes, and I feel like every almost fans are on the same page on this is so stupid. But he just keeps doing it. So
He got rid of Do or Die and
he did get rid of Do or Die. That was
the
good. I
Time
do think
Turner,
that oh, and the hourglass.
the Hourglass
Yeah, the
twist.
hourglass. Those were dumb, so stupid. Um, the Do or Die though, I really like that twist with a tweak to it. I think if you do the Do or Die, but instead of if you compete and get last place, you now have a two-thirds chance of going home without a vote. I think if you compete and you get last place, you lose your vote.
They do love losing votes. So,
right? They love losing
but
votes.
yeah,
And even though it won't get a lot of people to drop out of the challenge and not compete, it might get a couple of people to drop to not participate because they don't want to lose their vote. So I think that would be a good do or die uh adjustment. Um,
yeah.
because
Instead of just having Lily and Jonathan do a challenge in 42, because no one wants to risk a chance at going home.
two-thirds chance of going home, by the way, which is ridiculous.
But yeah, and Survivor really, I know we're on this tangent now. Survivor really lucked out with the fact that they did this in 2 seasons and neither one of those people went home. Because if someone
Right?
had gone home in one, there have been riots. There have been riots in the streets if that had happened.
Yeah, 100%. That's actually crazy that no one has gone home from that do or die
Yeah,
twist.
and I do believe that they went down exactly how it's being shown. I haven't heard differently, and I like to believe that what I'm seeing is pretty much what happened. So I believe that the two of them actually ended up being safe.
Right, but I could totally see the conspiracy theories out there.
Yeah.
I could see it. I don't think it happened, but I would not if somebody told me it was confirmed, I would not be like I would not fight back. I'd be like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Um, okay, so we talked about how Andy ended up getting nothing. It just kept going right past them. That's actually crazy that he got nothing because there were so many clips of him like literally right next to them. Um, what's also crazy to me, especially because in the beginning of the whole scramble, Sierra had nothing and like Gabe had like three or four. Sierra ends up with over $1,000, $1,060. That's wild.
Yeah.
Um, so that was definitely the highest amount anyone's ever had at an auction. So, well, at least to start an auction.
Yeah.
There's
Because
been
it was like
stealing of
five
money
hundred
in the
bucks or
past.
something.
Um, yeah. But we hate the twist of the first five auction five items are given, and then the rest are maybe gonna stop at any point. Um, and Rachel finds in her fries a clue to the exact whereabouts of a hidden immunity idol. I think an advantage in the fries is so smart. That's bonkers to give Rachel literally practically give her an idol for just randomly picking the burger. I think that's ridiculous. I think you should be able to completely find it. I think that should have been like a steal a vote or an extra vote or a inheritance advantage or something like that. Um it shouldn't have been just like a the idol is in your tarp. I
Well,
don't know.
well, and
What do you think about
I,
that?
I will say that, like, I mean, I'm fine with how they did it, and especially because in the moment, as it's being shown to us, she is surrounded on both sides. It's not Saul sitting in the center of stuff at tribal beforehand. Rachel's
Mhm.
sitting next to folks. Now, yes, one of those folks is Sue, so like probably not going to notice, but I have to figure out a way to get this, be sneaky about it, and then get back to camp and do, and we'll get to that, do what I'm going to do there. It's not like they put the actual idol there, because if they put the actual idol there, I would agree with you. Because it's just a clue, now that it's just a clue, she could get other people on board to go do it. She could have even stood up and said, "Hey, everyone, I have this clue. We can all go back and do it together." She could have done a lot of things with just the clue. If it was an idol, then it's like, okay, yeah, that's
Mhm.
that would be frustrating.
And you also had to cut it out of the tarp because it was literally sewn into the tarp.
Yes, and she done it.
And
She did
everyone's
it right in
always
front of
at
everybody.
everyone's always at the shelter. So okay, and now it's not the worst thing. I still think it should have been an advantage and not a clue to an idol, but at the same time, producers kind of needed to do something to give someone else an idol. Nobody wants only one person with an idol all game long because I don't think they must have thought, oh, Sue's probably not going to use it anytime
Yeah,
soon, and they were
ain't
like, we
nobody.
need to give someone else an idol. And honestly, it was perfect for Rachel to be the one to have an idol. Because Rachel is a target, and that's going to be used pretty soon, or she's going to be blindsided with it in her pocket soon.
Yeah, the
Um,
storyline right now is Rachel is, and my co-host Jake brought this up, and I thought it's a great comparison. She's kind of getting the Erica in 41 edit, where we're constantly being told Rachel's a threat, Rachel's a threat, Rachel's a threat. But what the audience is being shown is Rachel has good relationships with people. What she is, what she like, it's very clear that Rachel, but she has never done anything on screen that screams threat. And so and this is, and especially in this episode, Caroline gets two different confessionals where she's talking about Rachel is, and Genevieve says it a few times in both conversation and in confessional. And I'm like, they would not be hyping this person up. They wouldn't be showing this many people talking positively about this person's game if she was just going to go out like some jabroni, like in a 7-1 vote or something like that. This is why I think that Rachel's going to go home at 4, because I think that I do think that Genevieve is probably going to win, but I think that they've been building Rachel up not based off what she's doing, but what other people are saying about her. There's no reason for these people to be shown saying this about her if it's not going to ultimately lead to something. And I think it's going to be the Jesse spot of fire making, the person that takes her out, maybe, or what have you. That's why I think she's going home at 4.
okay. That does bring up a really good point. We see nothing about Rachel being a big threat except for people's confessionals and the fact that people want to target Rachel. Um, but I think that if a Gata member can survive this next round, make it to the final 9, um, with Sam and Rachel, I and let's say Kyle doesn't go home, uh, then Kyle and Sam probably become the two next biggest targets. Are you really gonna let Kyle and or Sam make it to like final 6? Like I don't think so. So I could see that out of the two Gata threats, maybe Rachel is able to make it further than Sam. And we there's also a clip from the upcoming episode that was shown like on the Survivor Instagram page that um Rachel and Andy are talking about maybe they can try and form a relationship and try to work together again. Because remember, in the first episode, it talked a lot about how they had this relationship where Andy really wanted to work with Rachel and Rachel did not. And that ended up being only an episode 1 thing and then never was brought up again. And Andy just decided to start working with Sierra and Sam. So that's also another thing where it's like it was talked about in an episode that it didn't really matter much, and then now it's coming back to fruition. So I could see maybe now Rachel and Andy do possibly not long term, but for a few votes, make an alliance, and that could cause Andy to now want to target Sam specifically instead of target Rachel. Um, so yeah, I could definitely understand your perspective of Rachel making it further than I originally thought. But I still feel like she's not gonna make it to Final Four.
Yeah.
I feel like she seems like a maybe a Final 6, Final 5 boot. They're like, how is Rachel still here? We have to finally get her out type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I do know that a lot of times very close to the end is where people who are edited as threats, but we don't really see why they're a threat other than people's confessionals. They tend to get out near the end, final 5, final 4, kind of like Lauren too on 44. There was a little bit less editing in the beginning of the merge, but definitely like closer to the end of the game, they were in the confessionals, they were like, "Oh my God, Lauren's the obvious biggest threat here. Like, we need to get her out." And we're just like, Lauren, she's the biggest goat in the entire game, and she's the
Who's the
biggest
doctor
threat.
from 37? Uh, uh,
Hmm.
Tall. Oh my goodness. Why am I forgetting her name?
Allison?
Allison. Allison is it's textbook Allison. Because every time I watch David versus Goliath, there's a certain point. It's just Allison is keep catching all of this fire, and it's
Yeah,
like, am I missing something? And
it's
yes, we are missing something because they're not showing us. But everyone is sitting there saying Allison's got to go. Allison's got to go. It's like, well, why?
yeah, that's
And
kind
it's
of like Q on
because Allison's
46
got to
too.
go.
It's kind of like Q on 46 too, where it's like Allison and Q, every vote, it was between the person who got voted out and either Allison or Q. And then just tribal after tribal after tribal, Allison and Q just keep surviving, but they're always the other option to be voted out.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
So
Um,
I think Rachel's in that spot right now. I do think she's gotten clocked a little early. So that does scare me, but just
Yeah.
the edit
Rachel's
in this
not winning.
episode,
I guess I can't say a 0.0% chance of her not making it to the final four. I could see her maybe making it to the final four, but there's no way she makes it to the end or else she's winning the game, and I do not see her winning this game at all. I also think it's crazy that Genevieve is so many people's winner pick now, and she had
she was invisible in the first two episodes.
two confessionals in the first three episodes, I think.
Oh, three. Okay, first three episodes.
Or yeah, was it?
She was
Yeah.
invisible.
Even when they went to tribal, she got one confessional.
I was convinced, like her with glasses and her without glasses, I thought were two different people because I didn't know anything about I didn't know anything about her. And then the Keyshawn episode happened. It's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then she's just been on this strong. She's gotten a consistently strong edit ever since the Keyshawn vote. If it's not Genevieve, it's Caroline. If it's not Caroline, it's Rachel. It's got to be one of those three. I think that anyone on this season. Am I lying? No. I think that anyone on this season can win, but I like it's got to be one of the
That's
three.
also crazy. Like every single season, there's people who have a 0% chance of winning. And there's nobody this season that has a 0% chance of winning right now, in my
Yeah,
eyes.
Sue can just. Oh, actually, I'm 57. It's like really no way. Uh,
I want her to make it to the end, regardless if she wins or not. I want to make it to the end so bad so that we finally get someone who can say something crazy at Tribal Council that they've been holding in ever since the beginning of the game. Like, how awesome would that have been, even though she was getting zero votes, if Liz made it to the end and said, I told you guys all that I am super rich, or no, I told what was it?
she was a billionaire or a millionaire. I think the whole thing was she was a
Yeah,
billionaire.
that saying that she was a millionaire, but actually like she wasn't or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, like and she was gonna drop that bomb. Like that would have been she wouldn't have gotten any votes, but that would have been pretty cool to see. Um
Marianne esque.
yeah, with the whole like idol, like, hey guys, like I've had this idol this whole time and never had to use it.
Hey guys, I'm not rich. I'm like, oh boy.
hmm So seeing this, like, oh, I told you guys I'm 45. Actually, I'm 59.
It's like, yeah, no way.
Yeah, and oh, like Sammy pretended like he was 23, but he was 19,
Yeah.
or 24 and he was 19. That would have
Yep.
been also an interesting thing. Like, you guys
Michael
thought I was
Yerger.
24 years old, but actually I'm still a teenager.
Yeah.
He
Uh,
doesn't look like a teenager. That
on the other end, you can be Sherry and be like, "Oh, actually, I own all these businesses, and I'm so nervous right now." It's like, "Oh, Sherry, shut up."
yeah.
Uh,
Okay, so last thing of the auction, there were two very minor new twists that were added. One of them was the Survivor Cashback Program, which Jeff was so excited about, where you give someone back $60 when you buy an item, and then there's the twist where in order to get the item, you have to pay $200 and compete in a gross food eating challenge to get the item. What do you think of these two twists? Did you like both of them? One, not the other, neither? What do you think?
I mean, I really love the second one because it brought back the gross food eating challenge,
Hmm
and I do think that if anything, so I know you were kind of 50-50 on the whole Rachel thing. If they had hidden an advantage in that, would it have made more like? Would you be more all right with it?
Yeah.
But oh yeah, I mean, soon as he says we're gonna bring back an old favorite, I'm like, they're gonna do gross food. They're gonna do gross food. Then they bring it back out, and I think what Sierra backs out, and I think it's just Sierra backs out.
Mhm.
Uh, and it looked like Caroline just couldn't get it down in time, but I think she finished off the food. I was very happy with that one. I hope they bring that back. I would love for them to bring that back. I think they will bring it back for at least 50.
I like that twist again. Also,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah. They gotta have the auction for 50.
Well, yeah, but if add that extra element of hey, we're gonna give you some balut this time,
Yeah.
or
Yes. Give some galoot.
the what the bull the the cow blood or whatever it was from Survivor Africa. Yeah, just really just bring back the cocktail from Pearl Islands. Just have fun with it. If you want 50 to be about having fun, that is, yeah, they might not be having fun in the moment eating that, but like that is fun for the audience, for
Uh-huh.
most of us.
Hmm. Yeah, and then the cashback program was I think it's another reason why I just don't like the fact that whoever has the highest amount of money left gets has to lose their vote type thing. Like it just adds to why that twist is so bad. However, if you're gonna have that twist, this does add an interesting layer to it. Where even if you buy the item just because you have the most money, you still could possibly lose your vote. I guess I think that both twists combined should not be in the auction anymore. But if you're gonna have the twist of most money loses their vote, I do like this added twist.
Yeah, yeah. I'm interested to see what they do with the auction next time.
Yeah. It's probably gonna be just like the new era always is, the exact damn same thing with minor
With
tweaks.
minor tweaks.
Yep.
Minor tweaks.
Hmm. So Sam has the most money. He loses his vote. Um, and then we get to the immunity challenge. One man and one woman is going to win immunity, and it's the holding the bucket of 25% of your pregame body weight challenge. I love this challenge. It is a staple of Survivor. I especially a staple of just me watching Survivor. I love it. So I'm glad they brought it back. And Kyle wins his third individual immunity challenge. We are now about to be at the final 10, and we already have someone with 3 wins. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then Sue winning is what I was the Kyle winning again was a challenge that I thought he was gonna win. Like his skill sets seem to be almost everything. I can't wait for a puzzle to come around, and probably Kyle won't do great on that. But um, I think that Sue winning, being 45 years
45,
old,
yeah.
is
Right.
is pretty awesome.
And she was very steady too. Like she was not struggling from what we're shown. She's not struggling at all. She's just doing it. She's locked in. So
Mhm.
yeah, good on her. This I know I brought up earlier. We haven't had a single merge vote this season where no one has lost their vote. We also haven't had a single merge vote this season where there is only one person that's immune. Well, one tribal council. Well, because like last week there were half the people that could like that were basically immune.
Well, I
Before,
guess the mergatory vote was the only one.
was it
Yeah, which is
only one?
crazy that it's the only one and they don't
Oh
consider
yeah.
it the merge.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I'm talking out of line then.
But it was only one, and
Yeah.
they didn't even call it the merge. Like I don't know. It's silly. Um, but yeah, Kyle says going back to camp that winning this third challenge is great for today, but definitely could mean that he's dead tomorrow. And it puts a much bigger target on his back. Everyone's probably going to want him out. Yeah, you're right, Kyle. It's definitely good to win immunities. And obviously on Survivor, you never want to throw a challenge. So you're still going to try to win all of them. But Kyle just, oh, right. Okay. sorry, I said earlier that nobody, like everyone has a chance of winning. Kyle has a 0.000% chance of winning this season. So many people pre-merge even were like super high on him. Every single episode, there seems to be someone who's like, "Oh, Kyle's gonna be the winner." No, Kyle, one, is winning too many challenges. No way he ends up making it to the end. Two, I just think there's way too many strategists on this season for him to have won if he made it to the end. Um, I think he even get a confessional, I think, in episode 2 of Kyle saying that like he's not a strategist. He
Yeah,
needs
he
someone
says
who's
it's
going
his
to
least
help him
favorite
with the
part of the
strat.
game.
He needs someone, yeah, he needs someone who's going to help him with the strategy. No winner has ever said that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's not
right
good.
right then and there, once I heard that confessional, I immediately put Kyle as not winning this game. Um,
And he
and
probably won't, but I don't necessarily think that means that he's not going to be Joe, where as soon as he loses, he gets sent home. Because I do think that he
I do
has,
think he's surviving this next. I think he's going to lose and then survive this next
yes,
round.
I think that he has enough bonds now where he could potentially have just won his last immunity last week, or yeah, this past week, and go a couple of episodes without being voted out before people realize that also socially he's doing pretty well. And that's the thing is, if you're just going to be a physical threat, it's almost, fine. Let him be the physical threat. Brad Culpepper, prime example. Let's let Brad Culpepper be the physical threat, because if you put anyone that's competent to the game next to him, they're probably going to win. So Kyle has this thing, but we're shown that him and Saul have this thing now. It's like, okay, he has this thing. He has this thing with his OG tribe, where yeah, he's probably number 4, but number 4 really helps right now with where the game is at. So I do feel like, yes, Kyle inevitably will probably get cut, but I do think that he's playing a lot better than a lot of the challenge beasts of the past, because he has the social aspect to go along with the physical aspect.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, so we get into the strategy and we get a nice moment from Andy where he starts off his game with glasses on. He's the weak player, the weak Andy, just trying to sit at the popular kids' lunch table. And now he takes off his glasses, lets his hair down, and is now going to be a pivotal post-merge player. And he's no longer Sierra or Sam's GOAT. I think that this is awesome from Andy. I love seeing this. I mean, tells Saul how he considers himself to be a Lavo member now. I think that is smart to say to the Lavo people. I think they will truly consider him maybe a Lavo, or at least consider him as a good ally rather than just a vote for Gata. So I do think that he is moving in the right direction, targeting Sierra and Sam. Um, I at first going into this merge thought that Sam and Sierra, even though they were not super loyal to Andy, they were like, okay, Andy's never going to win, so we should drag him to the end. But the more confessionals I saw from them, it's like we use him as a vote until we can't tolerate him anymore. Like, yes, if you think he has no chance of winning, tolerate him, bring him to the end. So I think, like, if you're truly doing what you think should be right for your game, you should bring Andy to the end. They weren't thinking that way, which is why it even proves more so that this was the right move for Andy to turn on them.
Yeah, I hate comparing and making this comparison, because one of the two people in this equation I am not a fan of at all. But here's versus villains. Parvati brings Russell despite everything. Parvati still brings him to the end because she knows, at least I'm not losing to him. Russell's a scumbag. Andy's actually an all right guy from what I've seen, and I feel like Andy's probably a little more tolerable than this man over here. So yeah, just if you feel that way, if you have the mentality of he's not winning, let's just tolerate it. All right, cool. You guys are on day what, 12, 13, whatever it is. You can make it another week and a half ish of this.
Yeah.
Just bring him to the end for him to ultimately potentially beat you. I think that Andy potentially beats them at the end,
hmm Yeah, I
but they
well,
don't know that.
I do think so. Maybe if it's, uh, I don't
If
know.
it's the, if it's
Yeah,
the three of
if it's
them,
all three of them,
because
then
Andy's
maybe.
gonna have the story because
Yeah,
everyone saw his breakdown. Everyone saw his breakdown. And so if everyone sees that and they see that, and they were so shocked when he showed up the next episode, they're already building this Andy story in their head anyway.
I think he would need like an amazing speech, and for Sam and Sierra to not be respected in order for him to win, because Sam and Sierra would just team up on Andy saying like, "No, we brought you to the end," but Sierra would be like, "I brought you to the end," and Sam would be like, "No, I brought you to the end." And then there's a chance maybe Andy could win if the votes are split on Sam and Sierra. I think that could be a possibility, if that was the case. But um, obviously, we know that that can't
Yeah.
happen anymore because Sierra's gone. But
Okay.
if I had to pick one person on this cast not to win, guaranteed, it's Kyle. I think everyone else at least has a chance. Um, I would also kind of, if I had to choose one other person who I think definitely can't win this game, someone who I want to win so badly, I don't think Gabe is winning this game.
I don't
I
think
think Gabe
so.
is too obvious of a target to go. I also think Sam is not winning this game anymore.
Oh no.
I feel like the big guys are all gonna go out. I think that
Well, how many
the girl a
big guys
girl
are
is winning. I really do. I really think a girl is gonna win this game.
how many big guys are okay, never mind.
There's I think are there just four left, or I think
Uh
there's
uh
five left. There's Kyle, there's Gabe, there's Sam, there's Andy. Oh, okay. And then there's
you forget
Saul.
Andy too?
So I think Andy and Saul are two guys who I think can make it extremely far and not be targeted purely from their size. But I think the other three, not only from their size and strength, but also their strategic abilities or social abilities, will make them go home prior to the final three. But I can see Andy making it to the end. I could see Saul making it to the end. And I can see literally any girl making it to the end
Oh
except
yeah.
Rachel.
Uh,
Um,
so, uh,
so
so going to the tribal because I another reasoning that I think that Rachel's going to last pretty long
yeah,
happens here. So yeah, we get to tribal.
the shot in the
It's a
dark
pretty
is what you're talking about.
well. Let's just we'll get there.
Okay, okay. Okay, yeah. So, the tribal, like, well, right before the tribal, we get just a little, we get everyone talking about the vote. We have Saul wanting Sierra out. We have Gabe wanting either Rachel or Sierra out. Um, Probably leaning more towards Sierra, but also Rachel. And then we have Genevieve and Caroline wanting Rachel out. We have Teeny wanting Sam out. Um, and so at this point, with Teeny being the only one to say Sam's name, and the fact that she said she doesn't want to push back too hard in a confessional, it seemed like it was lining up for Sam to survive. So I was like, okay, there's probably going to be Sierra or Rachel. I think it would be silly for them to ultimately not take out the Sam Sierra pair. So going into tribal, my guess was that Sierra was going home because even though it did mention a confessional of Rachel having the idol, I feel like if she was going to go home with it or play it, it would have been so much more in the edit than it even was. It was in the edit a decent amount, but they would have really put it
Yeah, they. I mean, she
heavy.
found the idol, and then we pretty much never hear about it
Never
again.
hear about it until the fact that she's like, I'm a little weary. I have my idol just in case. Like that's all they said about it. So I had a
Yeah,
feeling it was Sierra. It ended up being Sierra. Um, but something that I think was really interesting and a great play by Rachel was like what I was saying, how she played the shot in the dark. not only to try to gain safety just in case, but also to try to see the reactions from her fellow tribe mates and to see if they were actually voting for her so she knows to play the idol or not.
Yeah.
Based on what I saw from everyone's reactions, I didn't really see Rachel looking at the reactions though that much. But from what I was seeing from the camera angles they were showing on the episode, it seemed like Rachel was not going home. And that's ultimately what ended up happening. But I think the reactions from people would have been much crazier than they were after the shot of the dark was played. So I think that was a great play by Rachel, not to play her idol because checking out the reactions from everybody. Um, and definitely in a new way to now use the shot in the dark.
Yeah, this tribal went perfectly for her because I do think even if the thing had shown up safe, that now puts a target on her back of, oh, actually she wouldn't have, but if it popped up safe and people had actually voted for her,
Hmm.
then she would have been looked at as an even bigger threat because now she has this big thing that she's done. They didn't vote for her. They split the votes on these two, and she was not safe. What I took away from it, and this is goes into my other thing of her make it to the end, final four. She plays her shot in the dark, and I don't say she showboats about it, but she makes she makes it a spectacle. She makes it a spectacle that I have played my shot in the dark, and she no longer has a vote, and someone from her OG tribe, who she kind of wants gone anyway, is gone. So now her threat level drops down because now we don't have to worry about Rachel playing a shot in the dark. We don't have to worry about Rachel going back with her OG tribe because they're down to three. And we know that we have Andy, so she can't come work with Andy. Even if she does go work with Sam, there's no reason for her to go work with Sam because he's gone anyway soon. Yeah, we're still gonna have this Genevieve, Caroline, yeah, Rachel needs to go thing. But if Teeny can get people just for a round to say, hey, let's do this whole non-male thing, that saves her. Sam's gonna be out for blood on Andy, so Sam's not gonna be worried about anything but Andy. Andy's still trying to get his revenge on Sam, so we have that. Saul's looking out for Rachel, so even if Saul, because Saul didn't, from what we're showing, Saul and Rachel didn't know Sierra, Saul would tell Rachel, hey, you're probably going to be catching votes tonight, which gives Rachel an out to play an idol later. I think that Rachel right now is protected on all fronts, and she's no
Yeah.
longer looked at as a threat because she doesn't have shot in the dark and she's lost an ally.
Hmm. And now she's looking like she's just on the bottom. So it's now people are like, okay, well, she's clearly on the bottom. Like now she's not a threat anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely see that. Yeah, you're making great points on why Rachel could make it a lot further than I expected. So I'm excited to see how that all plays out. I
She
think
goes home
now
next
that
week and I'm just wrong.
right. I now feel like the fact that we have not gotten any guys out yet since Rome, and Teeny did say something in episode 7 about how she wants to eat all the men. And a lot of the girls have been saying, even though they've been targeting other girls, that they feel really good with the women. I could see the next two boots being guys.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, there are a lot of guy threats right now. So I mean, I I expect that at least one of them to go in the next two rounds for sure.
And
Um
I don't think it'll be Gabe because it would be hard to get Sue to flip on Gabe. Probably going to be hard to get.
I yeah, but you could just do a you could just do voting blocks with like Lavo and Gata,
Yeah, that's true.
and probably Kyle would also be okay with voting out
Well,
Gabe.
yeah,
Um
because at least I mean at that point, yeah, he's going to be looking to get rid of someone that's not the
Not him.
challenge threat.
Yeah, exactly. Um so we have the last thing to talk about with this tribal is the voting change, where like if you're tied and you don't have a vote, now the other person can still vote and vote against you because originally it was they didn't vote because the votes would cancel out. I did think that this was the way they did two-person votes. However, I can't remember exactly what season or seasons it was on, but there have been three-way ties before, and they all didn't vote.
Was it Redemption Island? I think Redemption Island, the Francesca vote, I think that was a three-way tie.
Really?
If I remember correctly, Redemption Island was a three-way tie, and I don't remember them. I don't remember any of the three of them voting. I could be wrong.
Right. I don't remember what season it was. I don't know how many times it happened, but I know it happened at least one time in Survivor where three people were tied and they all did not vote. So is it just a rule for the three-way tie that you don't all vote? And for the two-person tie, it was only because of the votes would cancel out. Like I'm kind of thinking that Jeff decides to change the rules whenever he wants to, and there's no real set rule for anything.
Well, so the way I saw it, I thought that the reason that Sierra could revote, but Sam couldn't,
Is because Sam doesn't have a vote.
is because Sam didn't have a vote and Sierra didn't vote for Sam.
No, because Sierra had a vote.
Oh, that's all. Okay, it was just the
Just
fact that.
yeah,
Okay.
which I think is just not the rule. I think that that's the case in a final three scenario because obviously the only person they could physically vote for in the first vote is each other, and that's why they don't vote in a final three situation. But
Yeah.
in a just tie vote, no matter how many people are in the tie, none of them should be able to vote according to Survivor rules. So I'm confused why Jeff changed this rule and made it seem like it was because they would just vote for each other.
So are you annoyed by this because Sierra's are winning? Oh, it's fun. Yeah, I I actually hadn't really thought that much into it. But that is a great point because
Mhm.
like I said,
Like what now from now on because he said this, do you if there's a three-person tie, what happens? What do you think?
I think they probably go back to the old rule.
Go back to like none
I
of them
think they
can vote.
can magic this away by just saying, "Oh yeah," and like that time in 47 where Sam didn't have his vote, and so then they can tweak the words, and they've done this plenty of times. They can tweak words to make it seem like it isn't what we saw happen with our own eyes. I think it would happen either in this episode or last episode where they were like, "Oh yeah, all women's alliance." You know, Micronesia is the only one that happened. I'm like, that happened in one world too. Did you just forget about that? Or, they love their little revisionist histories and think that people aren't obsessed with the show like we are. And they're not going to go back and be like, well, that's not exactly how that happened, but
Right.
you do you.
Yeah. Also, they probably only had Teeny's confessional.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um,
Yes, yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
but I forgot about that too. Um, so I guess because they didn't have a name for it, it's not as
Yeah. Oh,
big.
yeah, that's true.
I guess if you name something, it sticks. Um, so yeah, so I think that in the three-person tie, what probably is going to happen in the future is still all three of them can't vote. And I think that Jeff just likes to do whatever he feels like. If there's a not super obvious set rule for something, he'll do whatever makes it interesting for the show. Kind of like how he has zero rule for rewards. For negotiating, he
Oh
changes
yeah,
it
yeah.
every single season. Um, like I think it's crazy that he allowed that many eggs to be given to the Gata. Um, but we
Or that
talked about that
Rachel
in the
couldn't take the
previous
rice.
podcast. So, and the Rachel Rice, that should have been allowed. That's so I was so annoying that he called her out in front of everyone for that. Like that was smart. Like don't have rice in the challenge if you don't want someone taking the rice.
Yeah. Rice is going to end up in crevices anyway. Like they're going to go home with like 15 to 20 pieces of rice on their bodies. You might as well let them take home another extra 100 pieces of rice in their pockets. Uh, because why not? Like it's not stakes. It's not stakes.
It's not steaks,
They'll
exactly.
be fine.
Yeah.
They'll still be starving. Don't worry. They can eat this pocket rice and still be starving. You'll still get what you want out of it.
Exactly. So for the scenes from the next episode, Sam now has a vengeance and is ready to cause chaos. Um, who do you think this vengeance is for, and what is this chaos he is gonna bring?
Andy, it's got to be Andy. It.
Yeah, the
We're
vengeance is
getting
for Andy.
and it's
Um,
going to be so fun.
and I do think that this chaos has absolutely, well, it might have to do with Andy. But I think the fact that it's saying that Sam says, I have a vengeance now, and it's so clearly definitely on Andy. Andy, I think, is so safe next episode.
Yeah, and ain't going nowhere.
I think
Sam's not
Sam
going
would be
anywhere.
an idiot to target Andy next episode.
Yeah, neither one of them are going.
I don't think Sam's going either, which is crazy. But you'd think that in a normal season, Sam probably would be going home if he doesn't win immunity or Kyle. But there's a chance neither one of them go home, and that's crazy. Um, I did say earlier in the episode um that I don't think Kyle's going home. Uh, I'm now starting to lean more towards he is. Um, just because I just don't see how Saul goes home. I think it would be between Saul and Kyle. I think people are planning on maybe targeting Sue. But I don't think necessarily it's gonna stick. Um,
Do you think this is
I
the episode
think
that the Sue
that
paint idol comes back into play in the story?
the idol could come back into play this next episode, but I don't know why, but I feel like it's not. I feel like Sue's not gonna play the idol.
Well,
Um,
not even that. Just
I
like
could see
people,
Gabe maybe going home, but
somebody from that group's got to go. They got to
yeah.
go.
I feel like it's gonna be Gabe or Kyle, and I think that if it's Gabe, then Sue is gonna be completely blindsided and won't play the idol for Gabe. I think that if ends up being Kyle, then the idol never really comes into play.
Yeah.
But,
Well, yeah.
but yeah,
I would say the
those are
same.
the four names that were talked about in the scenes from the next episode.
And they could all just be red herrings for all for all we know.
hmm I think the reason why most of them are probably red herrings is Kyle is said as why are we not talking about him? Teeny is like so we're not voting Kyle? Like Teeny was very surprised, like why this is such an obvious choice to vote for Kyle. Um, so I do think that maybe the vote was Kyle, and then people are talking like, "Oh, we're gonna change the vote," and then Teeny's like, "No, like let's not change the vote," and probably it makes it seem like it's going to be someone other than Kyle, and then it's ends up being Kyle. That's what I'm thinking. They're gonna try to edit it that way. But I
We
think
only have one
Teeny
more day to figure it out.
finally is gonna get her way and get
Yes.
Kyle out. That's my prediction for the episode that Kyle goes home. My second, but my broad prediction is that uh Tuku male is gonna go home. Gabe or Kyle
Yes.
will be voted out in this next episode. That is my prediction. What are you thinking, Andrew?
I think that Gabe would probably be. I mean, in my fantasy league, I think I put most of my votes on Gabe. Um, I think that Gabe is a big possibility. I think that outside of that, I can make a case for everyone else staying, but obviously that can't happen, and it can't be as oh yeah, it's got to be Gabe. I if that civil war between Sam and Andy actually turns into a civil war that like hits tomorrow, then it could be very possible that one of the two of them goes. Um, I don't see a non-male going though. I think that's my biggest prediction. I
Right.
don't see a non-male going in the situation because Teeny wants all of the non-males together. Carol and Genevieve, although they want Rachel gone, Rachel's no longer a threat right now, so they could target somebody else. Sue doesn't want Gabe gone, but like Sue still has beef about something with someone. I don't remember who it is. But so there's
Kyle.
that with
Beef,
Kyle.
beef with
Okay,
Kyle.
and then who's the other female that I'm missing? Of course I can't remember, but
Caroline?
I lump Caroline and Genevieve together. Oh, and Rachel. Duh.
Rachel. Your
Rachel.
winner pick.
Yeah, Rachel's not gonna go after Saul. Rachel probably, like you said, maybe does a thing with Andy potentially. She's going to try to distance herself away from Sam. There's a lot like this episode. I feel like it's. I mean, a lot of the episodes this season, but I feel like there's so much unpredictability to this episode. But my biggest prediction would be a non-male goes home, which
Yeah.
is a cop out answer, but
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, so we know your winner pick. My winner pick, Sierra, got just voted out. She was my pregame winner pick. Even though episode by episode, it seemed like she had a lesser chance of winning. There was nothing so obvious that she was not winning, so I decided to stick with her as my winner pick every episode until she gets voted out. I now have to make a new one. Um, Going into this season, there were two girls and two guys that I was really looking at as my main winner picks. Um, the girls were Sierra and Caroline. The guys were Gabe and Andy. My top ones for both of them being Sierra and Andy, and ultimately I chose Sierra as my winner pick. Um, I I just the way that she's playing, Caroline seems like such an like a good choice for a winner pick, but like so many people are saying that she's not getting like a winner's edit. I don't know. Um
winners edit schminners edit.
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
like
know. Let's see. I don't think any of the guys are winning the game. Um
I don't think Teeny's
So I think
winning.
it's going to be a girl. I don't think it's going to be Rachel. Um, I don't know if it's Sue, so I feel like it's Genevieve, um, Caroline, or Teeny. Um, I feel like the two people who are most likely going to win, I think are Genevieve or Caroline. I think it's crazy that Genevieve was not in the episodes at all, practically the first three episodes, and then now is such a powerful player in this game. But I'll stick with what I originally thought going into the season. I'm gonna change now to Caroline. Um, I'm gonna go with Caroline. I didn't love the way she played the first episode or two, um, but she's really coming around for me. She's been in a lot of the edit wherever they can put her. Um, I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see who can win this game based on what happens later in the season. Because right now it really could be anyone, and it's going to be interesting to see who's on the jury, who can vote for the people who are left, who respects certain games. Because right now we don't know who is not being respected, other than maybe Andy, but only by the GOTA members. I do think like a lot of the other people are not disrespecting Andy, but not necessarily respecting him, but like not counting him out as like someone who's obviously not going to win the game.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go
Gabe's the
with
only one counting
Caroline.
out Sue and Caroline, which is weird.
Yeah. Uh yeah, Sue I just feel like is not going to win. I would love for her to win. I could see her maybe making it to the end, but uh
She's
I
from your neck of the woods, right?
where yeah, where is she?
I think she's from Long Island.
Is she
You're
from
Long
Long
Island, right?
Island? I'm from Long Island, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I
Okay,
think
there
she's
we
from
go.
Long
There we go,
Island.
Sue, representing Long Island. I love it. All right. Well, I would love to see Sue at the end. I don't think that she'll be respected as much as maybe someone else making it to the end because there are a lot of people who are playing great games. Um, but I do think it has to do with this idol. I think if Sue can do something later on in the game with the idol, could be good for her. So we'll see. Well, but yeah, I'll say Caroline, you're sticking with Rachel, right?
Sticking with Rachel, even though fire making. I'm sticking with Rachel losing at fire making,
You're sticking with
but
Rachel
also
losing in
want
fire
Rachel to
making, but
win.
also winning the game. You're
uh,
covering all bases.
yeah. But outside, I think it's going to be one of the three: Caroline,
Mhm.
Genevieve, Rachel. But
Yeah, yeah.
Rachel's who I picked. Rachel's who I'm sticking with. Rachel's going to lose at fire making.
Okay, awesome. Well, Coach Drew, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast with me and recapping these past two episodes. We covered a lot of ground, and I'm excited to recap next week, episode 9. But until then, thank you so much for hopping on, dude.
Thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course. All right. Well, we will see you guys next week for episode 9. And yeah, see you there. Peace out, guys.